Look at your hands. These hands you possess, they represent the most powerful tools of potential on this planet. Yet for many of you sitting here today, these hands have never grasped the full measure of what they were designed to accomplish. Today I stand before you with an urgent message that burns within my soul. The graveyard is the richest place on earth because it is filled with dreams never pursued, books never written, businesses never started, and potential never realized. All because of one deadly enemy that has silently assassinated more dreams than any other force on earth: the fear of taking risks. You were not born to merely exist. You were born to excel. You were created to make an impact that outlives your life, but that impact will remain dormant and buried within you if you continue to choose the path of least resistance. We live in a world that celebrates comfort and security above all else. A world that has convinced millions to trade their greatness for guarantees. But I declare to you today that the greatest risk in life is not taking one. The most dangerous place you can be is in your comfort zone. Every major breakthrough in human history came because someone was willing to risk failure, ridicule, rejection, and uncertainty. Every innovation, every advancement, every leap forward for humanity required someone to step away from safety and into the unknown territory of risk. Let me tell you what risk really is. Risk is not reckless abandon or foolish chance-taking. True risk is the deliberate decision to pursue growth even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. It's calculated courage, not careless chaos. There are two types of risks in this world. Foolish risks ignore reality and wisdom. But calculated risks, the kind I'm advocating for today, assess the situation, count the cost, and move forward with purpose despite uncertainty. Why do we fear stepping out? Our brains are wired for survival. The amygdala, that ancient part of your brain, treats uncertainty the same way it treats physical danger. It triggers your fight or flight response at the mere thought of leaving what's familiar. This was helpful when we faced predators in the wild, but it has become the very thing holding you back from your destiny. From early childhood, we're conditioned to avoid risks. Be careful. Don't rock the boat. Better safe than sorry. These mantras echo in our minds, conditioning us to prioritize safety above significance. Our educational systems reward those who follow instructions perfectly, but rarely celebrate those who question assumptions and take intellectual risks. But here's what they never told you. Playing it safe is the riskiest choice of all. While you're avoiding risks, life is passing you by. Opportunities are evaporating. Your gifts are atrophying. Your purpose is waiting unfulfilled. The cost of not taking risks isn't merely maintaining the status quo, it's regression. When you choose safety over growth, you don't just stay the same, you diminish. Your confidence erodes, your skills become obsolete, your relevance fades. Think about it. The very smartphone in your pocket exists because someone risked failure. The transportation that brought you here today exists because someone risked looking foolish. The medical advances that have saved countless lives exist because someone risked being wrong. Everything valuable in human experience has required risk. Growth is not a mysterious process. It follows predictable patterns that we can observe throughout nature and human experience. Consider the butterfly. It must risk the destruction of everything it has known as a caterpillar to become what it was designed to be. The caterpillar doesn't gradually sprout wings. It enters the chrysalis and undergoes complete metamorphosis, a total transformation that requires leaving behind its former existence. This is how growth works for you too. Meaningful growth doesn't happen incrementally within your comfort zone. It happens explosively outside of it. Look at any area of physical development. Muscles grow through a process called hypertrophy. They must be stressed beyond their normal capacity. The muscle fibers must be broken down before they can rebuild stronger than before. No stress, no growth. This principle applies not just to your body, but to your mind, your character, your capabilities, and your influence. History bears witness to this truth. Martin Luther King Jr. risked his life for justice. Marie Curie risked her health to advance science. Nelson Mandela risked 27 years of freedom for the dignity of his people. Steve Jobs risked his reputation and financial security multiple times to revolutionize technology. Their willingness to risk comfort, security, and certainty changed the world. The pattern is inescapable. Breakthrough requires breaking out. Discovery demands departure from the known. Excellence requires exiting mediocrity. And what about failure? Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's a component of it. When you take risks, you will fail. This isn't pessimism, it's reality. But each failure contains the seed of equivalent or greater benefit if you have the wisdom to extract it. Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times before inventing the practical electric light bulb. When asked about his failures, he responded, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This is the mindset of the risk taker. Failure is not final, it's informative. It's not a period, but a comma in your story of growth. Your comfort zone feels like protection, but it's actually a prison. It promises safety, but delivers stagnation. It offers relief, but results in regret. Let me share a startling reality with you. According to research, approximately 80% of people report being dissatisfied with their careers, yet only about 20% actually take meaningful steps to change their situation. Why? Because the familiar discomfort seems safer than the unfamiliar possibility of something better. This is the great deception of the comfort zone. It feels safe because it's known, but it's slowly diminishing your life force, your passion, and your purpose. The myth of security in today's world is just that, a myth. The jobs our parents and grandparents held for 40 years barely exist anymore. The skills that made you valuable 5 years ago may be automated or obsolete 5 years from now. The idea that playing it safe guarantees anything has been thoroughly disproven by the rapid pace of change in our world. Even if you think you're standing still in your comfort zone, you're actually moving backward. While you're avoiding risks, others are taking them. While you're protecting what you have, others are pursuing what could be. The world rushes forward while the comfort seeker falls behind by standing still. This is the great paradox. Seeking safety creates greater danger in the long run. The safe choice to avoid learning new skills makes you more vulnerable to technological disruption. The safe choice to stay in an unfulfilling relationship leads to deeper regret and loss of time. The safe choice to avoid health changes leads to greater health problems later. The comfort zone promises protection but cannot deliver it. True security comes not from avoiding risks, but from building the capacity to take them intelligently. So how do we become intelligent risk takers? It begins with a framework for assessment. First, distinguish between high probability risks and low probability risks. High probability risks have a reasonable chance of success based on your preparation, the market conditions, and your available resources. Low probability risks depend more on luck than strategy. Second, evaluate high impact risks versus low impact risks. High impact risks can significantly change your trajectory, whether they succeed or fail. Low impact risks, even if successful, won't substantially improve your situation. The sweet spot lies in high probability, high impact risks. These are calculated risks that can transform your life while having a reasonable chance of success if you prepare properly. When considering any risk, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen and can I live with that outcome? Most often, the worst-case scenario isn't nearly as catastrophic as your fear suggests. You might face temporary embarrassment, financial setback, or need to pivot to a new approach, but these are recoverable situations. Start small. You don't need to risk everything at once. Take micro risks daily to build your risk-taking muscle. Strike up a conversation with a stranger. Share an idea in a meeting. Try a new approach to a familiar problem. Each small risk builds your capacity for larger ones. Create safety nets that enable bolder moves. Before entrepreneurs quit their jobs to start businesses, many build savings, develop side hustles, or secure initial clients. Before athletes attempt record-breaking feats, they train progressively and ensure proper equipment and support. Intelligent risk-taking isn't about removing all safety measures. It's about taking the leap with appropriate preparation. Remember, risk-taking is a skill that improves with practice. Each risk you take increases your capacity to take the next one. What seems terrifying today will seem manageable tomorrow if you begin the practice of purposeful risk-taking now. Let's address the elephant in the room, fear. It's not enough to know intellectually that you should take risks. You must overcome the emotional barriers that prevent action. Understanding the biology of fear is the first step. When you contemplate taking a risk, your amygdala activates the same fear response as if you were facing a physical threat. Your heart rate increases, your palms sweat, your thinking narrows to focus on potential dangers. This is normal. But it's not the final word on your actions. The frontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, can override this fear response if you give it the chance. This is why techniques like deep breathing, visualization, and cognitive reframing are so powerful. They give your rational brain time to catch up with your emotional brain. Practice intentional discomfort daily. Take cold showers. Fast for a day. Do public speaking. Each time you voluntarily step into discomfort, you're training your brain that you can survive and even thrive beyond your comfort zone. Visualization is not mere positive thinking, it's mental rehearsal. Olympic athletes use this technique to prepare their minds and bodies for performance. Before taking any significant risk, vividly imagine yourself moving through the process. See yourself handling challenges. Feel the emotions. Imagine multiple scenarios and your response to each one. This neural programming reduces fear and increases performance when you actually take the risk. Surround yourself with risk takers. You will inevitably become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. If everyone in your circle plays it safe, you'll find it nearly impossible to break that pattern. Find mentors who have taken similar risks to what you're contemplating. Join communities that celebrate growth through challenge. Distance yourself from those who project their fears onto your dreams. Finally, reframe how you think about failure. Failure is not evidence that you are inadequate. It's evidence that you're attempting something significant. It's not a judgment on your worth. It's feedback on your approach. The only true failure is the failure to grow from what didn't work. Let me share some examples of ordinary people who transformed their lives through calculated risks. Sarah Blakely was selling fax machines door to door when she cut the feet off her pantyhose to create a smoother look under white pants. This sparked an idea, but bringing it to life required risk. With $5,000 in savings and no background in fashion or manufacturing, she risked everything to create Spanx. Manufacturers laughed at her, retailers were skeptical, but she persisted through rejection after rejection. Today, Spanx is a billion-dollar company, and Sarah became the youngest self-made female billionaire in American history. What if she had listened to the voice of fear? What if she had decided that selling fax machines was secure enough? Her potential would have remained buried. And millions of women would never have benefited from her innovation. Consider Howard Schultz, who grew up in public housing in Brooklyn. While working for a small coffee company, he visited Italy and was inspired by the coffee culture there. He had a vision to bring this experience to America, but his employers rejected the idea. He faced a choice: stay in his secure job or risk everything on his vision. He chose risk. He left his job, raised money from 242 investors after being rejected by 217, and built Starbucks into a global phenomenon that transformed how Americans experience coffee. What if he had chosen security over possibility? What if he had allowed rejection to define his limits rather than test his resolve? Or think about J.K. Rowling, divorced, unemployed, and raising a child alone. She was nearly homeless when she wrote the first Harry Potter novel. Publishers rejected her manuscript repeatedly. She risked her time, her emotional energy, and her dwindling resources to pursue her vision when conventional wisdom would have told her to get a real job for security. Her willingness to risk rejection led to creating one of the most successful book series in history, touching millions of lives and creating thousands of jobs. Let me tell you about Oprah Winfrey. Born into poverty in rural Mississippi, raised in inner city Milwaukee, and surviving abuse and trauma that would have crushed many spirits, Oprah took risks repeatedly throughout her career. She was fired from her job as a television reporter because they said she was unfit for TV. Rather than retreating to safety, she took another risk by accepting a role on a low-rated talk show in Chicago. She transformed that show by taking the risk of being authentic instead of following the sensationalist format of the time. Each step of building her media empire required new risks. Starting her own production company, launching her magazine, creating her television network. Today, she stands as one of the most influential women in the world, having impacted millions through her willingness to repeatedly step beyond what was comfortable and secure. Consider Elon Musk, who sold his first company, Zip2, for millions. He could have lived comfortably for the rest of his life. Instead, he invested almost everything into his next ventures. After selling PayPal, he took nearly all of his $180 million and split it between SpaceX and Tesla, two industries experts said were impossible for newcomers to enter successfully. Both companies nearly failed in 2008, and Musk was down to his last dollar. He could have cut his losses and still live well. Instead, he doubled down on his vision, even borrowing money for rent. Today, these companies have revolutionized space travel and accelerated the world's transition to sustainable energy. His willingness to risk financial security for transformative impact changed the trajectory of entire industries. Even in the face of physical limitations, risk takers find a way forward. Consider Nick Vujicic, born without arms or legs. He could have accepted a life of dependency and limitation. Instead, he risked rejection and ridicule to become a motivational speaker, traveling to over 65 countries, speaking to millions of people, writing books, acting in a short film, and even learning to swim, surf, and skydive. His willingness to risk failure and embarrassment has inspired countless people to overcome their own limitations. Or look at Richard Branson, who struggled with dyslexia and dropped out of school at 16. He started a student magazine, then a mail-order record business that grew into Virgin Records. When he decided to start Virgin Atlantic to compete with established airlines, people thought he was crazy. His advisors warned against it, but he saw an opportunity to revolutionize the airline industry by focusing on customer experience. That risk, launching an airline with just one leased plane, led to building over 400 companies under the Virgin brand. Each new Virgin company represented another risk that experts often advised against. What do these stories have in common? Each person faced moments of doubt. Each experienced failures along the way. Each had logical reasons to quit. But they understood something essential. The risk of unfulfilled potential is far greater than the risk of temporary setback. Each of these individuals also demonstrates an important truth. Risk-taking isn't a one-time event, but a lifestyle. They didn't take one risk and then retreat to comfort. They built lives characterized by ongoing courage, persistent vision, and the continual willingness to step beyond what was known and secure. They understood that growth doesn't happen in isolated moments, but through a sustained commitment to pushing boundaries throughout life. Let's talk about your capacity. Studies in neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, reveal that your potential is far greater than you've been led to believe. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, capable of making more connections than there are stars in the known universe. Yet most people use only a fraction of their mental capacity. The gap between average performance and peak performance isn't slight. It's staggering. Research on peak performance shows that the primary limiting factor isn't capability, but belief. When people believe they've reached their limit, they stop pushing. But when that artificial limit is removed through crisis, competition, or inspiration, they discover capacities they never knew existed. Consider Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile in 1954. For decades, experts claimed it was physically impossible for humans to run a mile in under 4 minutes. Once Bannister broke this barrier, dozens of runners did the same within the next few years. The limitation wasn't physical. This phenomenon appears across every domain of human achievement. When the Wright brothers achieved powered flight in 1903, they shattered the widespread belief that heavier-than-air human flight was impossible. Within just a few decades, commercial aviation transformed how humans travel. When experts said it was impossible to put a computer in every home, visionaries like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates pushed forward anyway. When medical experts claimed certain diseases were incurable, researchers who refused to accept those limitations eventually found breakthroughs. The human capacity for adaptation and growth is nothing short of miraculous. Consider how your body responds to environmental stress. When exposed to altitude, your body produces more red blood cells to compensate for lower oxygen. When subjected to physical training, your muscles and cardiovascular system adapt to handle greater loads. When faced with cognitive challenges, your brain physically rewires itself to become more efficient at solving similar problems in the future. This same principle applies to every aspect of your potential. Your capacity for leadership, creativity, resilience, strategic thinking, empathy, and technical skill all expand when stretched beyond comfortable limits. But, and this is crucial, this expansion cannot happen within the confines of what you already know you can handle. Why do most people never discover their true capabilities? Because discovery requires deviation. You cannot find new lands without losing sight of the shore. Your greatest gifts often lie dormant until circumstances force you to use them. Think about how many extraordinary capabilities have been revealed through crisis. Parents suddenly lifting cars to save trapped children. Ordinary citizens showing incredible courage during disasters. People learning entirely new careers in midlife when necessity demands it. Crisis reveals capacity because it removes the luxury of limitation. When there is no choice but to rise to the occasion, people discover reservoirs of ability they never knew they possessed. Risk taken is the deliberate decision to explore the frontiers of your capabilities rather than waiting for necessity to force your hand. It's choosing to discover what you're capable of before crisis demands it. It's deciding that the treasure of your potential is worth the discomfort of the journey to find it. The tragedy of unrealized potential isn't just personal, it's global. Every breakthrough that would have improved human life but remained unlaunched. Every book that would have inspired millions but remained unwritten. Every innovation that would have solved pressing problems but remained undeveloped represents an incalculable loss to humanity. Your potential isn't just about you, it's about your contribution to the human story. I want you to imagine two futures stretching before you. In one, you continue as you are, taking few risks, staying comfortable, doing what's expected. You reach the end of your life with nagging questions. What if I had tried? What if I had taken that opportunity? What could I have become if I'd had the courage to step out? In the other future, you become a calculated risk taker. You feel fear but act anyway. You experience failures but learn from them. You face rejection but persist. You discover capacities within yourself that you never knew existed. You reach the end of your life with the satisfaction of knowing you didn't leave your potential buried within you. Which future will you choose? Today, right now, I challenge you to take immediate action. Identify one dream you've been postponing because of fear. Write it down. Take one concrete step toward that dream within the next 24 hours, no matter how small. Find one person who will hold you accountable for continued progress. Schedule regular reviews of your risk-taking to ensure you're not slipping back into comfort. Celebrate failures as evidence that you're living boldly rather than hiding safely. The world doesn't need more comfortable people. It needs more courageous people. It needs people who understand that greatness never grows in the soil of comfort. It needs you, fully alive, fully engaged, fully expressing the purpose for which you were created. The clock is ticking. Every heartbeat counts down the limited time you have to make your mark on this world. Every day spent in the prison of safety is a day of potential lost forever. I leave you with this truth. Your life will ultimately be measured not by what you accumulated, but by what you contributed. Not by what you kept safe, but by what you risked to make better. Not by the comfort you maintained, but by the growth you achieved. Risk isn't just the path to growth, it's the path to meaning. It's the path to purpose. It's the path to a life you can look back on with pride rather than regret. The time for hesitation is over. The time for excuses has passed. The time for transformation is now. Start taking risks or you'll never grow.